We shall now go on to our next speaker, Dr. Ved Naiki, who is a medical consultant UVR services from Arvind Eye Care Services, Madurai. And she is going to be talking on infectious retinal uveitis clinical scenario. On to you, Doctor.
So good evening, everyone. I first thank Dr. Chitra ma'am and the ARC team for giving me this opportunity. We'll straight away go into the talk, which is infectious vasculitis. So what is retinal vasculitis? It's an inflammatory ocular condition involving the retinal vessel. It's a sight-threatening condition if it is not diagnosed in the early stages and treated appropriately. The retinal vessel has a rare advantage that it can be accessible to visualization by ophthalmoscopy. So, unlike systemic vasculitis, where we need a retinal biopsy and a histopathology to confirm a diagnosis of systemic vasculitis, active vasculitis can be diagnosed clinically by ophthalmoscopy. It presents with exudates around retinal vessel, giving the appearance of sheathing or cuffing of the affected vessel. And the same can be confirmed by fundus fluorescein angiography. Systemic vasculitis is usually classified based on the caliber of the vessel involved. That is like large vessel vasculitis, medium vessel vasculitis, small vessel vasculitis. But when it comes to retinal vasculitis, we usually differentiate based on whether arteries are involved or venous system is involved, or whether based on the etiological cause, whether it's an infectious cause or a non-infectious cause. Today, we'll stick on to the infectious cause of retinal vasculitis. So, the common examples of arterial involvement in retinal vasculitis are acute retinal necrosis, toxoplasmosis, Westnell virus, while venous involvement is commonly seen in tuberculosis-related vasculitis, CMV-related, and HIV-related. So how do these patients present to us? The patient may be asymptomatic. When there is only peripheral involvement of these vessels, the patient may be asymptomatic and it would have been an incidental finding. The patient may have floaters when the vitreous gets involved and the patient has vitritis. When there is an occlusive vasculitis, patient may come with a scotoma, while in a progressive stage, patient may develop cystoid macular edema, vitreous hemorrhage, and a tractional RD showing vision loss. So what will be the clinical picture? Now, as I said, retinal vasculitis, it is going to be inflammation of all the retinal vessels. Then how will we identify the etiology of the retinal vasculitis? There may be subtle clues here and there, which will help you to identify clinically what is the cause of the vasculitis. For example, in TB vasculitis, there may be a chorioretinal scar along the vessel or in the periphery, which helps you to say it is a TB vasculitis clinically. Similarly, in toxoplasmic uveitis, there may be focal vitritis, localizing necrotizing retinitis along a satellite lesion with Kyrillis arteriolitis. Kyrillis arteriolitis may be close to the lesion or it may be in the periphery. But not in every case of TB and toxo, the clue will be on your face. You won't get it in the posterior pole. Sometimes you need to look for the CR scar or active retinochoroidal lesion in the periphery to make a diagnosis of TB or toxoplasmic uveitis. Similarly, when you have severe vitritis and you have occlusive retinal arteritis, look for necrotizing retinitis in the periphery to make a diagnosis of acute retinal necrosis. So when there are areas of necrotizing retinitis with variable degree of hemorrhages with mild vitreous inflammation, it may be the typical Pizarro appearance in CMV retinitis. So these are the common presentations in infectious causes of vasculitis. So whatever may be the cause, the pathogenesis is in acute retinal vasculitis, there is retinal swelling, exudation, and macular edema. Usually the cystoid macular edema is the common cause of vision loss in these patients. And when there is occlusive vasculitis, there may be retinal edema, hemorrhages, and retinal ischemia, and even macular ischemia. Macular ischemia is the irreversible cause, so it has to be identified early and treated fast. While left behind untreated, there may be late changes of microaneurysm, neovascularization, vitreous hemorrhage, and tractional RD, and the patient may even go for NVG and painful blind eye. So once we have clinically diagnosed it as retinal vasculitis, we have to do a fundus fluorescein angiography to confirm it. And also, sometimes the clinical extent will not be the same as what is there actually. FFA will show you the actual extent of vasculitis. There will be staining of vessel wall with fluorescein. diffuse capillary leak, and it helps us to delineate areas of capillary non-perfusion. So it will allow us to say where will we have to photocoagulate, laser photocoagulate in laser. So as we said earlier, too much of photocoagulation can lead to nyctalopia. So this will tell us where the patient actually needs laser photocoagulation. Optic disc leak, and reason for the vision loss in this patient maybe macular ischemia or CME, which can be detected in FFA. Again, OCT will help us to detect cystoid macular edema. So how will you investigate these patients? So we do a total count, differential count. MAN2 and IGRA are usually done. We usually stick on to MAN2 in our hospital. So we do a MAN2, and if needed, and if we think it may be a TB vasculitis, we go ahead and do CT chest and abdomen. ESR CRP to look at the inflammatory status, and TPHA VDRL to rule out syphilis. HIV CD4 count when we have a doubt regarding the status of the patient. So we will look at few clinical scenarios. So this was a young male who presented to us with a unilateral vision loss. He had unilateral vasculitis. So when we evaluated, he had a necrotic MAN2. We did a CT chest, and CT chest showed a tree in the bud appearance, a typical evidence of systemic pulmonary TB. The patient was started on ATT with oral steroids for control of inflammation. Again, ATT, if you are comfortable, you can start the patient on ATT straight away after doing a LFT, or you can refer to internist, and oral steroids has to be always added to reduce inflammation, associated inflammation. But not every patient will present to us with a straightforward diagnosis. So here we are showing another case. It's a 5-year-old female child who presented to us with defective vision. So on evaluation, you can see there is diffuse vasculitis, more like a frosted branch angiitis-like picture. So our ideal management would have been a vitreous tap under GA and sending the vitreous sample for PCR, TB, viruses, toxo to find out the etiological cause. But here the child was from a poor socioeconomic family, and the parents were not willing to undergo any of this investigation. Looking at the clinical picture, they gave a history of fever, and there were granulomatous anterior uveitis. So we went ahead and started the child on antiviral treatment with oral steroids. And after a month, you won't believe, the child came back with a 6/6 vision with complete resolution of the vasculitis. You can see that there is minimal resolving vasculitis in the periphery. For a second, no, the child was not very cooperative. We sent her for a fundus photo. When she came back, I asked the sister, like, is it really the child's photo, or have you, like, by mistake, have put some other patient's photo? Because the clearance was so good after a month period. So not in every case you have the luxury of ordering all the investigations and getting a proper result. Sometimes it's the clinical picture and the clinical acumen which will help you to treat the patient and get a proper result. So coming to the last slide. So always treat the infectious cause associated with the vasculitis before treating the inflammation. Add oral steroids for control of associated inflammation. Yes, sir, this is the last slide. And when coming to periocular steroid, either intravitreal or PST, it has to be with caution, mainly when we are dealing with toxo or with ARN. Similarly, go for laser photocoagulation, which should be based on the FFA findings. So laser photocoagulation to prevent neovascularization in feature. And in late stages, we have to opt for vitreoretinal surgery once the patient has had vitreous hemorrhage and tractional RD. So coming to the take-home message, in a developing country like India, where the infectious causes are more endemic, evaluate in detail before coming to a diagnosis of non-infectious vasculitis. So, and starting the patients on long duration steroids or immunosuppressive, make sure that you have ruled out all infectious causes, because it's going to be very bad when the patient's vision is going to drop because of your treatment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Srinivas, you have anything to add, or we take one comment from our expert panel and move on?
Yes, madam. I would like to ask the expert panel about this COVID vasculitis, which is now picking up, and since it's the hot subject of debate, and of course the COVID caused the infectious and the immunization causes of this vasculitis. I'd just like to know more about this. Avinash, sir?
No experience, Srinivas.
Sir, may May I speak?
Yes, madam. Yes.
Actually, we had two patients. The only problem was they are not very literate to say what was the type of COVID vaccine. They came after immediately. It was within a week's time. They came back with a bilateral occlusive vasculitis. We even evaluated them in detail, like for all the bleeding diathesis and all those things. But everything was normal except for occlusive vasculitis bilateral. Two old people from villages. It's not like an educated person. Only history after detailed evaluation, the only history was vaccination. So it's like we cannot prove it otherwise. That but the temporal association with the vaccine did say that it may be secondary to the vaccine.
Yeah, we have more of a vascular occlusion also.
Yeah.
Thrombotic occlusion than vasculitis.
No other comments? Then I'll go on to our next speaker.
Yeah,
because
Padmamalini madam wanted to say something.
Yes, like Madam said, in addition to the inflammatory markers, there is an hypercoagulation results in vasculitis with vascular occlusion. Most of the COVID cases, and we had extreme of case where we had an occlusive vasculitis. Not only that, patient had necrosis of the extremities and the nose, and finally we have to put a patient on IV methylprednisolone, and also we end up giving cyclophosphamide infusion, following which the inflammation was controlled. That is an extreme case.
Thank you.